Them having caps on Oriana is making this game very difficult. It feels really hard to do anything because we can never kill him and he keeps finding picks on everybody.
Welcome everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at a game of G2 Caps. And this is a game that I partially watched on Broxa's stream, which is the opposing brand right here. As you guys could have seen in the introduction, Broxa felt somewhat hopeless and he didn't really know how to play out this game. And one of the reasons why that was is because Caps' mid-game macro was just incredibly good. And that's exactly what we're going to be focusing on in this particular review. I'm going to be explaining you guys how Caps makes the difference in the mid-game, what his thought process is. I'm going to be breaking down his decisions and how he basically carries games by understanding where he can be, where he cannot be. And we're going to start off quite early right here. And we're going to do a little bit of an analysis of the game state. First things first, what we see is that the game state overall is pretty even. You see it in the gold value. It's slightly ahead towards Broxa's side, so towards red side. We see that the main difference is being made in the CS department on top, jungle, and AD carry. And if we look at both compositions, we see that both compositions are actually really low engage. So it's very low threatening compositions. We're having double enchanter support. We're having ranged AD carries. We have no engage on both junglers. And that means that there's just generally low threat on both sides. That's also why the game so far only has had 8 kills, because everyone's just easily gotten out all the time. So, to introduce the sequence a little bit, what happened was that there was a little bit of a roam from Darius towards mid. Caps died. Caps now is in base. And he now is going to TP top to answer the top lane wave. So it's a really classical start right here from... it's a little early of the mid game, so to say. Because of the lane swap happening. And the reason why Caps TPs right here is for efficiency. He doesn't need to be mid right now. He doesn't need to be bot lane right now if you look at the wave states. But he does need to be top and catch that wave. So what is he going to do, right? Is he's going to try to be efficient. And first, he's going to be scanning for enemy vision. He does not want to get himself get caught. So in the time that no minions are dying, what he does is he actually spots out if any enemies are invading or in the area with his Qs. Then he nukes the wave right here. And after nuking the wave, he's just going to go out of vision. Why does he do this? Well, the main reason why he does this is because he is scared. His jungle is playing on bot side. He's on the weak side of the map right here. So he's got to be a little bit careful. And he just try to set himself up for some vision. And the only way that he does that, he pushes out the wave first, allows Aurora to answer, and then he goes to creating the warding opportunity. And there's a clear split map scenario right now. You see that Caps is on the weak side right here. Since the enemies don't have that much threat, he is not that scared into the weak side because of the fact that Brand plus Aurora, the dive threat is not that high. So he feels pretty confident shoving out the wave. If the enemies have an Elise, for example, he will not stand here for free and be at risk of getting dove. Because there's a high likelihood that because of the map split right now, that Elise will be invading the top side of Kindred. So, what he does right here is he clears the minions in the tower. He checks the bushes with his with his Qs to make sure that he's never in any kind of threat. And he nicely pushes out this wave into a little bit of a tempo reset. As you can see, Caps currently on 700 gold. He doesn't have the perfect base. But what you recognize is that he doesn't have anything else to do. He actually has this item spike, so I may have misread his items. Anyway, he has got his item spike, so he has a really good base, actually. And he once again opens up the top. Why does he open up the top? Well, once again, efficiency in the lanes. You don't want to be dropping any type of minions. So he's got his item spike right now. He's really incredibly strong. And with his Kindred now playing on his side, that means that he's got a little bit of positioning that he can push a little bit more forward right now. So he's now going to play a little bit less scared. So he's going to be catching the wave. And he's once again going to be like scouting out for enemy vision first. And it looks like right here the brand is on the top. And as you can see, this was a really interesting position because Kindred actually reset. And I'm pretty sure what he suspected was that Brand was probably on bot side because Brand actually cleared the groups. But what happened with Brand's probably cleared plot to top. So I feel like he had the feeling, hey, Brand's probably bot side. That's why I'm contesting. But it seems like Brand was playing top. And it doesn't really make sense anyway that Brand's is top, because Karma's actually playing bot side. So both Karma and Jungler are playing opposite sides, and that's not something that you see a lot in high elo gameplay. Usually those two are pretty linked up together. So I understand his thought process of, hey, Brand's bot, I've got a full item, right? I'm strong in his Aurora. I want to do some trading, because he had the Zillion hovering top, he had the Kindred that was resetting on top side, can always cancel a reset. Kind of forced to blow his flash. But since he's got Zillion in the back right here, they cannot really dive, so it's still completely fine, and he can just nicely collect the wave in the turret and do a really good job at farming. Of course, making sure that he lands every creep. It's very important you land your creeps, guys. Guaranteed gold is always important. And then what he does is he opts in for a little bit of a fake reset. This is incredibly smart. So the reason he doesn't want to reset right now is if you look at his gold amount, it's really low. He already has boots, so what is he gonna buy? He cannot buy anything. So he's gonna reset right here and make Aurora think that he is actually gonna base. But then he's gonna stay and allow himself to catch a free wave in the turret, because Aurora hard shops. So he can now catch this wave for free under the turret without being under any kind of risk. And that means that he now can get in better position where he can take an even better reset. Probably he's gonna fake base again. Why? Because the next wave's not a cannon. Or he's so confident that he pushed it out fast and that he's gonna base, that he can actually get the base off. In this case, it's the second iteration, because he cleared the wave really fast. And that means that he doesn't necessarily need to wait for a cannon. And that means that we now can get an Amp Tome and a Control Ward comparatively to potentially Dark Seal, which would then be the only other option. So, we're once again just going to top. The game state is very slow right now, and that's completely fine with us, because we're happy just farming it up, not doing too much. And the main thing that we're going to try to do is get our farm and recognize when we can play up and cannot play up. Currently, we're once again on the weak side of the map, so we got to be a little bit careful when it comes to the trades that we do. But it seems like he's confident stepping up, and more likely than not, he's had a read on where Brand is. It's clear in the jungle. And if we can take a look where Brand actually is right now, he is clearing bot to top, because that was also the path that he did when he previously ganked Caps on top side. So Caps is probably aware of the fact that Brand's now clearing his Raptors and his Red buff. And he's therefore comfortable that Brand's not hovering. Plus the gank threat of Brand isn't too high. That's probably his thought process. I'm trying to explain his thought process. I'm not entirely sure what he's thinking, because his Kindred is on bot side and he is playing on the weak side, which can sometimes get a little bit awkward as Brianna. But as you can see, he's doing a really nice job landing his abilities, and eventually he tries to get for a little bit of an all-in with his R, which probably would have worked if it landed, but it doesn't, and that's completely fine. And that allows him to just nicely get the wave in and contest a little bit of vision. You do got to be careful, because Brand is here. So you see that he's therefore in a little bit of a tricky situation. If Brand has flash, what happens is that he's a dead man walking right here. So this was very risky because of the fact that Kindred's bot side. And yeah, therefore you see that it's not the highest percentage play, but he's definitely wasting a little bit of the enemy tempo, allowing Kindred to get up back into CS, and he's doing a really nice job recognizing the enemy threat and actually baiting out the enemies into top side right here. So he just nicely catches the wave, and once again, we're opening for a little bit of a reset. So we got our Archangel Staff right now completed, and our Seraph's Embrace, and that means that we are now a little bit more durable and safe. So Aurora TP stop, and it looks like Caps want to get one more wave, which is a little bit greedy. Probably he does that again for item spike reasoning, because now he can turn this this Amp Tome into that alternator thing, which is going to be a little bit of a stronger reset than he would otherwise get. Otherwise, he would be able to, if you go a little bit back, he's actually opting in for boots, which is also really good. If he doesn't take this extra wave, he's only resetting at 600, which means that the best thing he can get is like the Aether Wisp or Lucidities. But in this case, he doesn't really want to go Lucidities because he's solo AP. And that's why he actually opts in for this extra wave and instantly is able to get the Sorks right here. And it seems like he just sells the Control Ward and gets the Sorks for it. And it seems like he values the move speed really high. I'm not really sure what his thought process is behind selling the pink ward. Probably because he's constantly on the weak side. Like, he's fully playing weak side, so it's like, maybe I just need the move speed. And he's just constantly just clearing the waves. And the reason why he's constantly on the weak side is because of the fact that it's just efficient to be here, as unfortunate as it may seem. So he's nicely collecting the waves. His team is playing bot side. And one thing you really have to understand is that there is a very good reason why Caps does not teleport right here. And this is really big because a lot of people, after this particular reset, right, would say is, hey, I am actually going to TP top to save the turret. Game-ending mistake. Because what's going to happen is if he TPs top right now, and the dragon spawning in X amount of time, what's going to happen is that the dragon spawns in... I know what it is. It's not really saying. Anyway, if the dragon's spawning and he's TPing top, so he's playing on the weak side without TP, that's when we get into some problematic positions. And as well, he initially walks bot, then he recognizes, hey, Darius actually stays. And it's actually quite alright, because he's got TP right now on the weak side, and he's just dropping the turret. And dropping this turret is actually really good. And why dropping this turret is completely fine for him, because now he has more time to move. So now the lane actually increases in length, which means that he can now play a little bit safer, slow build waves, and get better moving opportunities himself without dropping too much tempo. So he doesn't necessarily mind this tier 1 dropping. It's not the end of the world. So this is a very risky guess that he's doing right here. So what he's doing right here is he's actually pushing up an extra wave. And this is risky because he doesn't have any vision and he doesn't have any control. The reason why it's so risky is because Brand can be here, Karma can theoretically be here, but he's like, hey, if that happens, I'm okay with it. And the reason why he's okay with it is because the dragon's spawning. So if they are committing on top side without Aurora having TP, that means that they get the dragon for it, and he's happy taking that risk. And what he can then just do is he can then just ult the wave, get a high-valued Bowson Law death, and prevent the enemies from being able to split push, trading cap skill for a dragon. That's completely fine because he got the wave in, so it's not like he loses much. And you see the beauty about this play, right, is that it just gives him options in this case. It just gives him a lot of options. So Aurora actually goes away in front of far. We don't necessarily know where she goes. The enemies are TPing top. And the reason we cannot progress on top right now is because we don't have enough vision. We have all our vision around bot side. So he actually moves mid to get mid lane control with the team right here, putting him in a position which should put him in a really strong position of the rank. Actually getting the Aurora flash right here. And once again, moving a little bit towards mid to get control with the boys right here. So one thing that we see is that he's doing a really good job holding his R, knowing that Ezreal can flash out. And the only problem in this case is that there was a little bit of a miscommunication between the team. I like his macro ID. His macro ID is really, really good. But if we zoom out right here, we see that after the Aurora flashes, is that the enemies actually get a really, really big pick onto the forest. The forest gets couple card, and the Kindred's forced to use R with the Zillion R. And with Caps coming in on the flank and Darius not on the move being yet, so the timings are a little bit messed up. This flank is actually not that powerful, and it's actually a little bit of suicide, as unfortunate as it may seem. If Varus make sure that he doesn't die, if Kindred and Zillion played a little bit better and a little bit slower, this move timer from Darius combining with the pincer from flank from Caps will actually be incredibly powerful. So I like his intention. He just didn't really adapt fast enough to what actually happened here in this particular case. Okay, so horror. Caps dies, everyone dies. We're now incredibly far behind. We lose mid tier 1. We lose mid tier 2, and the game is brutal because we also lose Dragon on the backhand. So from this point, how is he ever going to get back and win this game? And it's going to be really hard. So what we're going to see is that Darius opens up top lane. Cap still has TP, and Varus opens up mid. So where is Caps going to go? Well, Caps is of course going to go bot in this case. Now we got to ask yourself the question. What about this Rift Herald? Do we want to do anything with this Rift Herald? Well, this Rift Herald is going to be a little bit of a tricky one, because we are now so far behind that we cannot really fight into the enemies. As you can see, Ezreal, Brand, they're all incredibly strong. So we don't really want to have a lot of action. We're kind of playing to skill up, hit our item spikes, and if we play, it has to be a high percentage play. And otherwise, we're just going to be stalling out the game. So him playing on bot side, right, is good. I think it's completely fine if they actually can trade sides of the map. And what I think happens in an ideal state right here is that he actually calls his kindred towards bot if he wants to give the Rift Herald. But maybe his intention is, say, to fight this Rift Herald. I would personally not feel comfortable fighting the Rift Herald right now. And I would love to play on this bot tier 1 to counteract the enemies taking the Rift, with Kindred being on bot side. But we're going to see what happens right here. So he catches the wave, moves into mid, and there's a little bit of chaos happening right here. Seems like he's fighting the Aurora a little bit. He's doing a pretty nice R. Some nice movements onto the Aurora. And he kills the Aurora together with the Darius, but the rest of his team dies. And it's kind of what I expected, is that his team just gets completely annihilated here in this particular fight because of the fact that they're not strong enough. So I would have much rather preemptively had this Kindred like go towards bot lane after taking this mark, let her clear towards bot, play into the bot T1 instead, and give the Rift Herald. I think that's the best possible macro play. But it is really hard to like fully control your team like that. So I like his adaptive play right here, into continue with the move. I think conversely you can also just stay bot and hit turret and get the turret instead. I think that's the best thing to do. That's why he instantly sprints bot afterwards right here and instantly starts pushing, because he recognized that, hey, the enemies are probably going to be taking top side right here. I just killed the Aurora on bot. There's no one on my lane. And that means that I can deny the enemy's minions. So this is a very interesting situation, because in this particular situation, it looks like he does not feel comfortable pushing up. And he actually decides to not hit the turret, even though that the turret is potentially takeable. And I think that was a really good one. And the main reason why that was a really good one is because it seems like Brand actually walked into the bot side. And it's something that he probably recognized. So I love what he does here. And another really good thing about him resetting right here is that in this case, like, the wave's going to be bouncing back. Because the wave crashes right here, what's going to happen is that eventually the next minions are going to slightly stack up right here, which means that this is going to be a very big slow push into our side on blue, and eventually we can catch that in the turret. So while he did that as well and did not hit turret, he actually went for a reset into a TP around top side. Let's see what his mindset is with this particular TP. He TP stop and try to collapse onto the Jace. I think that's a really valid idea. And what happens is that indeed the Jace walks into him. He does not give Jace the room to Q, which is very smart, because if he gives Jace the room to Q, Jace can proc face rush, hit the Orianna, and run away. Because he's so slow and waited for the Zillion, this is absolutely fantastic. So this puts him in a really good position where he gets the Jace kill, and eventually he collapses onto the Brand that was chasing the Kindred, and he's now punishing the enemy's mistakes. Really nice tempo TP. Basically punishing the enemy mistakes right here. And from this point is really where he's going to be giving an absolute masterclass in mid-game side laning. So what are we going to do right here? Nice little state. Let's analyze the situation. We see Rift is still up. Atakan is spawning. Varus is top. We have no TP. Darius is mid. What an absolute mess of a game state. The good thing is we got a slight tempo lead over the Brand and the Jace. So what are we going to do? I think the most consistent... there's two options really. Either we're going to go top. No, not top. Either we're going to go bot or we're going to go mid. You don't want to go top because if you look at the location of the wave, there's nothing to gain here. It will eventually push back into us. And that's only when we want to catch it around this particular place right here. So we got a lot of time on top lane because the Varus pushes out this wave, and it will now slow push back into us, which is a good thing, because if it slow pushes back into us, the enemies will lose a lot of minions. So we don't have to attend to top at all. So we can go either instantly into bot, or we can go through mid into bot side. That's another way that you can go. But I think for efficiency purposes, because of the enemies being down on tempo right here, you can actually opt into bot, but it seems like Darius actually goes bot instantly to catch this wave, which we set up to slow push back into us. Unfortunately, no one was there to catch it. And what we're going to then do is open up together with the team through mid. Why is this really important? Because now we can get mid control. With the Zillion, getting this mid lane control is going to be crucial to controlling both side lanes. Because the one that has mid push is going to be the one that can collapse onto the side lanes first. So what he does really well is he allows Varus to answer the wave, and he's now moving in together with Zilean right here to grab up control of the area. And he recognizes that control of the area is incredibly important. So he's moving up together with his team. And I think what was actually a really important thing to do is contest this mid lane wave. So I think what we should do in this case is actually contest this mid lane wave together with the team, push Ezreal off, allow Zilean a little bit more space to create vision control, and only then we reset to answer the top lane wave. I think we had a little bit more time before we need to be top. And I think we could have been a little bit more clear on contesting this mid lane wave. The only thing that was a little bit scary, right, is because we didn't necessarily have a lot of vision on the bot side, so maybe they're collapsing onto Darius, and that's why he might be covering. But if we can get this mid prio, because we know that Aurora is going to be top, that can be really huge to slowing the game down and getting some vision control around mid. But in the end, we do our job, we get a little bit of control back without exposing us, and then eventually we nicely reset to catch the top lane wave. As I said, only when it comes really close to the turret. So now we're just going to nicely be top lane. And as you can see, is that currently he does not have TP. So that has got to be, we're a little bit scared of the enemy starting the Atacon. He doesn't necessarily like to be here. But what he's going to do is he's not going to go and blindly push much further. Because he knows that he has no TP. And if he keeps pushing this extra wave, the enemies have a free Atacon start because he's so far away from the objective. If he does have TP, he is able to take this extra wave. But since he used it previously, he cannot really do that right now, and he's forced to move the way that he is right now. So Aurora is forced to respond to top. Of course, there's always also that risk of running into Brand, but he's got Flash, he's got R, should probably be fine. It's not too much setup. And look what he does. He takes prio on the next mid lane wave. And this is so important, because look at the pressure that it creates for his team right here. A lot of vision control comparatively to what they... that's actually some bullshit because they already had vision control. But what we can now do is we can actually keep the vision control. And that's really important because we keep the vision control right now. We also spot out where the enemies have vision control. And if we look at this from Red's POV, we see that it's completely dark. Because of Caps' move from top into mid, you see that right here. They got all of the control around the area, which makes it really hard for the enemies to start up this Atacon because they don't have the control to play it. So in this case, Darius goes to answer, and he instantly moves down as well, because Darius also doesn't have TP. So one thing that's really nice is that, given this situation, we now got a little bit of an Atacon fight. That's completely fine, guys. Atacon is like Baron. Atacon reduces your resistances if you start it, right? So red side lose a lot of HP. They're not in a hurry. It's 12k HP. We can chill. We're completely fine. Right? There's always this risk upon flipping for the enemy, so they will not take it, so they are ahead. So don't necessarily brute force a fight right here. And one thing that I really like that happens is that Darius actually pushes the mid lane wave, because he recognizes that the Atacon is not takeable by the enemies because of Kindred just being in the area. Pushes the mid lane wave, forces the enemies now to respond to mid lane wave or deny them a minion wave. This is really, really, really good pushing. And what happens on bot in the meantime with Caps is that Caps gets the experience of the wave, and he now contests the wave a little bit right here. And the only reason why he's able to do that is because the wave stacks up right here and not in the middle. If it's in the middle, he's too vulnerable. He's got no vision of the bushes. And you see that the enemies are indeed hiding in the bushes right here. He spots the Aurora invis, and he's able to just nicely walk away with his Empowered W, giving us the move speed. And a really good thing that he does is he baits the enemies in. Look how much that he baits them in, waits for his team to collapse. And why is his team able to collapse? They had the mid prio. In the ideal world, right, what also happens, like what also can happen, right, is because we have no info on the enemy start. We know that the enemies don't start the Atacon. Darius can actually keep pushing and get the mid T1 while all the enemies are not in place. So I think that Darius is struggling a little bit in the mid game right here. It seems like he doesn't really know what the limits are of all the champs, and he doesn't really know when he needs to go where. So I think that's like a few missed opportunities that this guy had, but overall Caps is playing it very smart right here. And yeah, what we see in these particular comps, right, is that there's very little multi-threat and very little hard engage. So how are the fights going to play out? The fights are going to be slow as fuck. the fights are not going to be fast. Yes, there's a lot of damage on both sides. Yes, there's not too many tanks. But the fights are not going to be super fast because no one's going to be locked down, nuked, one shot. At this point, at least. Fights are going to be pokey, a lot of range. Fights are going to be quite slow. And that means that in this situation, what happens is that the Aurora makes a really big mistake. What is the mistake that Aurora makes? Aurora tries to speed up the fight into the Zillion, the Skinneret, and gets herself killed. If Aurora just holds her abilities, don't do anything, Cap stays poked, they start the Atacam, bait the enemies in, poke some more, force them into reset, or do the dragon, that's when red side wins. But because Aurora actually tries to play too fast, it doesn't work out. So really, really, really nice play and perfect micro execution of Cap 12, slowing the enemies down. Now, what happens right here? Because this is a fascinating play. Caps opens up top side. Why does he do that? Well, Caps recognizes my TP is coming up. Aurora is dead. I don't mind losing the dragon. I'm going to be too late for the dragon anyway. So I can be efficient and move up to top side. If the enemies start Ayataka, I can always TP. And this is where really Cap's decision making shines. Because a lot of people wouldn't do this. Conversely, opening up mid and doing that on mid is also completely fine. As long as you don't run bot and compensate for this fight happening. Because what happens right now is that Aurora is actually TPing mid. And Caps gets himself a free tier 1 on top. Allowing him to generate some more gold coming back into the game right here. So this was incredibly well played by Caps. And Kindred see on top side as well. If the enemies are Alticon, right, it is what it is, right? Like the enemies team wasn't really able to play. At least we're trading for stuff. Kindred got himself a little bit of a camp. We're denying the enemies a lot of waves on top side right here. And we get some top tier 2 damage up as well. So this is absolutely fantastic. And what we do right now is we recognize, hey, we got quite a bit of gold. 1700. We got our next item spike. We're now at 2 items working towards our third. Kindred's also getting stronger. We're getting a little bit back into the game. You also see towards the gold graph. So, interesting position right here. This is one that we're going to be analyzing again. Not sure why it starts. What we see right here, okay, is we see that we reset. And we reset. We have top lane wave all the way pushed in. Darius is here as well, for some reason. And what we now got to recognize is, hey, Rift Herald's up. We got TP, right? And which lane assignment do we want to go? Where do we want to go to? There's a few options right here. You can go top, but that's not really good because we've already pushed out the wave really deep. So the location of the wave means that top lane is not a good place to go. If we look at mid, mid's a really good opportunity, right? We love to get mid prio into a side lane because if we can get mid lane control, we can control the pace of the game and also control the side lanes respectively. But we can also go bot. Bot's also completely fine because of the fact that the location of the wave is quite neutral right there. We can push it, force someone to respond, and then play. So I think you have 2 options. You either go mid into bot or you can go instantly bot depending on how you view the level of threat upon the enemy team right here. And on how comfortable you feel pushing up this lane. If the enemies have a lot of gank kill-oriented champs, probably what he does is he opens up mid right here, gets some control, and then only goes bot. But since he recognized, hey, the enemy's threat is also quite low, I've got TP up. If the enemies collapse onto me on bot lane right now, they're not that mobile, we can probably just get the Rift Herald for it in return. So he's very comfortable instantly opening a bot without getting mid lane control because there's not that much threat onto the enemy team. And he knows that both of them don't have TP. So by doing a deep push top into a reset, into a deep push bot, he's constantly kind of forcing this Aurora to respond. And this Aurora was initially a little bit more fat than him. But because his lane assignments are a little bit stronger, what actually happens is that this Aurora is now constantly responding to him. And in this case, we make the Jace respond. We go for a little bit of an R. Orianna versus Jace in the side lane is a crazy good matchup for Orianna. So he recognizes he's winning it. He spots the information upon the enemy team. Jace kind of suicides for the wave. And that leads to Orianna get herself a nice little kill right here. Almost getting killed by the turret. Because he spots all of the enemies on top side, right? He's really happy just taking this next wave. He knows that he's safe. He takes the minions. And now there's 2 things that he can do. Either he's going to reset, This is of course good if you don't know where Jace is going to go, because Jace has the insta revive. He can open a bot and snipe you because you're low, or he's going to stay. And in this case, like, I understand why he resets, because he cannot risk the fact that Jace can go bot. Plus, he needs to contest the Baron right here, because you don't want to be giving up Barons for free. So this is a really good reset into TP, and that's why we're allowed to play weak side with teleport up. As you can see, Caps is not wasting his TP for anything. The fact that he has, whenever he has TP up, he uses it as a little bit of a pressure tool. And you can, if you compare this to, for example, the red team, their TP usage was a little bit less good. So now there's a little bit of fighting right here. And in this situation, they get themselves a beautiful amount of resets onto the Atakan buff. And that puts them now in a position where Caps level 15. Caps is really, really strong. Pushes out the mid lane wave and then gets topside control. He down has no TP, so he cannot go bot. Plus the location of the bot lane wave is not in a good spot. So what he's going to do, he's going to get some control around the Baron right here. And then he's going to get some control around topside. Main reason, he wants to now control the Baron area. He cannot go bot because of the fact that he then gives the enemy an opportunity to start Baron with a lot of Baron damage onto the brand. So what we see right here is that he thinks he's pretty safe, but Karma actually makes a pretty good read and decides to hard force onto the Orianna right here. This is a really good read by the Karma. The only problem is that in this specific case, Cap still has flash. Cap has a lot of damage, and he kind of outplays the Karma, mainly because he's been farming so well and he's able to do this. But this is a situation that if he plays versus, for example, a Rel, or like more threatening champs like Nocturne or something, you cannot do that because there's too much threat. So, once again, we're going to be opening up from base. Where are we going to go? Let's look at the location of the waves. Both side lane waves have not been attended to. Both Jace and Aurora are constantly responding towards the pushed in waves. And that means that we're just going to be pushing up through mid into a side lane. And the reason why we do that is to get mid lane control first. Vision around mid is OP in general. So let's see where we go. We go through mid, try to get the mid push, and then we're going to be responding towards the side lane waves. So I think in this situation, right, what I would have personally done is I would have personally stayed mid for one more wave right here. I would have stayed mid for one more wave. I would have tried to help secure a little bit more vision around the parameter here first, forcing Ezreal to respond, potentially giving Zillion even a reset opportunity to grab some more wards. But it seems like Caps recognizes, hey, it seems like we already get control. I want to contest Aurora onto this next top lane wave. I do not want to give Aurora this next top lane wave to push, because if he pushes the mid lane wave, Aurora gets the next top lane wave to push. So there's an upside and a downside. So I kind of like what he's doing, because if we can get Aurora that much tempo, she probably has the perfect tempo for the dragon. So let's actually see how this plays out. Yeah, if Aurora can push that wave fast into mid lane push, they probably have the perfect timer for Drake. So I actually like what Caps did here. I think it's a little bit better. I think I would have probably messed up the tempo of the game a little bit. So we recognize right here that Dragon is going to be incontestable objective. It's the third Dragon. If you don't feel comfortable playing this, this is givable. It's completely fine to give this Dragon, because this Dragon is tricky. But in this case, it looks like Caps is down to fight for the Dragon. It's also doable, right? The Kindred's getting strong. 3 items Kindred, 3 items Caps. He's probably recognizing, hey, this is actually a power spike on our end. So he feels really comfortable playing towards the Dragon. 3 items, 3 items, 3 items Varus as well. So he's opening up, pushing out the top lane wave, opening up towards the boys on mid, trying to get mid lane prio onto this wave, because mid lane prio onto this wave will get people control around this area. So I really like what he's doing right here, opening up mid and chunking the Aurora a little bit. Even though Aurora has got some good combos, Caps lances are, they're now getting a little bit lower. But the Ezreal gets greedy for Caps. They always get greedy for Caps. He baits them in, one of his specialties. Gets himself a nice little pick onto the Ezreal. And afterwards what happens is that they lose the Dragon because they're so low. It's fine, they get a nice pick onto the Ezreal. And where are we going to see Caps open up to? Well, let's take a look at the location of the top lane wave. Pretty far away. Don't necessarily have to get there right now. Let's look at the location of the bot lane wave. Pretty awkward lane state right there. It's pretty even. So it seems like Darius, in this case, is opening up to bot. So what is Caps going to do? He's gonna get mid pry onto the next on the next wave, and through mid, right? What's he gonna do? He's gonna go open up towards top side. So why does he not push the wave with his team? He recognizes his team can already get the pry himself. If Ezreal's contesting, he can put himself in the area where he's gonna be getting pushing Ezreal off and forcing Ezreal to eventually like be a little bit careful. But he recognizes, hey, my team's already got this. Like, my team's already got the prio. So what he does instead is he uses this as a little bit of a tempo opportunity to set up a little bit of nasty deep vision right here and do a little bit of a trap onto the Aurora. So I really like what he's doing right here. And this is just very smart, like, tempo understanding. It's also, like, abusing the fact that Aurora has no flash. This was actually insanely well played. And I'm going to be honest, I probably would not have found this pick. Yeah, like, I think what I would have done is... what I see him do, comparatively to my games, I see that he actually... He does move towards his team on mid, but he doesn't necessarily take the guy's XP. And if he's able to, and he especially doesn't take the guy's farm if he's able to. And this is something that I do sometimes. I just take my AD carry's farm. Maybe I need to rethink my positioning around these mid lane waves a little bit better. So I really like what he's... Yeah, the fact that he recognized, hey, kind of got the pry already, Ezreal's in base. So I can use this as a little bit of a tempo opportunity with how strong I am to catch an enemy off guard. And he does that absolutely onto the Aurora. Really good ability usage here as well. Like, this generally perfect ability usage, getting himself the kill. And this is insane. The amount of tempo that he gets by getting this Aurora kill, right? And getting himself a nice little control ward in his bush for safety and coverage, of course, allows him to do so much. First, we're going to check this bush, make sure that we are not getting collapsed upon. It seems like the Jace is now collapsing onto us. But, very big but, look what's happening in the meantime. Darius is hovering mid. And the reason why Darius is hovering mid, what happens when Darius hovers mid, is that their bot lane can contest the wave. And their jungle is also hovering mid, so their bot lane can contest the wave. And you see that they now have first move into top side. That's why the control on mid is so important. If we go towards red side, zero control on mid because they're responding. You see the difference? And this allows Kinner to move up towards top side right here and be the first one to collapse onto this particular 1v1. And Caps knows this, so Caps baits this out. And all he has to do is stay alive, and Kinner will do the rest. So Grant also recognizes, because the Fox is a good player, right? It's too late. Kinner was faster, and that allows them to also get a pick onto the Jace. So this is incredible sophisticated understanding of mid-game tempo and macro. This is really, really good gameplay. So, what is he gonna do right now? We're back up in base right here. Let's check the lull state. I'm not sure what this means. Red Bramble. Oh, so it looks like the dragon timer is not online. So it's, for some reason I can't watch the dragon timer. Anyway, what he's going to do right here is he's going to recognize bot lane wave really deep. I got TP, right? So what I can do is I can go to either side, and ideally I reckon where he goes towards the weaker side of the map, mainly because of the fact that Darius cannot really currently play on weak side because he doesn't get push and he doesn't get prio. He doesn't get push prio, and he has no TP. So what's Darius going to do, right? Darius is going to just massively struggle. And Darius cannot really contest the strong side of the map. So that's why Darius is also always running around mid, because Darius is just a sitting duck. If this was a top laner with TP, the game would be so much easier for blue side. So first thing that Caps does, right, is look at the location of the sideline waves right here. They're deep, so he doesn't have to go towards the sideline wave just yet. First thing he can do is get mid control. And that's exactly what he's going to be doing. He's going to be opening up towards mid. And what he does very nicely is he goes a little bit towards the side right here. And he allows Varus to get the experience himself. He allows Varus to actually get the creep. But he is pushing Ezreal off the wave. And he is making it really hard for them to get control back around the mid lane. And after he does that, he nicely gets up the turret. Because once again, look at the location of the sideline waves, guys. Top is not pushable right now. It's too deep to go there. Bot lane Aurora's pushing it in. We got a heaps of time before this wave crashes on the third. So we got a lot of time where we split the enemies up. We're now grouping up. We zoned off the S-wheel. We cannot clear the wave and get ourselves to the third. Really good sequence. So what happens is afterwards is we push the next mid lane wave. We make sure we get pry on the next mid lane wave. And then we go towards the weak side of the map. Why? Because he's got TP for the next neutral. So if the enemies start the Baron, at least Caps can TP in. If Darius is on bot, that's not the case. So what he does is he actually gets the bot push right here. And this is a very interesting situation because what happens right now is that the enemies now have an opportunity to utilize the Aurora push from bot into mid and actually get priority onto this next mid lane wave, which is brutal because he does not get priority onto the next mid lane wave, which means he cannot push the next wave on bot because of the fact that the enemies can easily collapse from mid into the sides, and his team does not have the Baron damage to back it up right here. So he is actually forced to move mid, and this is also a good idea that he moves mid. And the only thing that we gotta be very careful of is that we now have no control mid, we got no vision, we don't want to get ourselves caught. And that's potentially what happens because it looks like the enemies have vision control and they get themselves caught. So the macro idea is good. The only thing is that we take a slightly greedy route. If we take a look at this from Red's POV, Caps was spotted on this ward. And who placed this ward? Karma did it. Very nice deep ward right here. Just before Caps and the boys got prior around mid. So I understand why Caps didn't think that there would be a ward here. This is just a really smart ward by Karma. Very well done. Very well done, really. You gotta give credit where it's due. And eventually, Caps gets caught. Really brutal, of course. Gonna play it through. And yeah, that is a pretty big mistake, right? It's like the first real big mistake that we see here. But luckily, Kindred kind of salvages it with the mid lane control. They pincer onto the enemies and they get themselves a fantastic 2 kills, preventing the enemies from doing Nash and controlling the space around the objective because of all their nice vision setup right here. So Caps has TP. It's a long dead timer, but he has TP. So nothing really happens right now. And what happens when Caps spawns? Well, let's take a look at the locations of the wave. Mid lane wave. Neutral. Top lane wave. Pushed in. Bot lane wave. Slow pushing into it. So let's push out bot. And after that, after pushing out bot, we can nicely move ourselves over to mid. Or we can use Kindred Hover to get an extra bot lane wave. Both is completely fine. So what he does is he pushes bot lane wave, gets control with the boys right now. Very important to get control. And they're now very properly setting up around the next neutral objective. And the reason why he's so comfortable pushing up deep is because they got the mid lane prio, they got the bot side control, they got incredible vision setup right here. This is really good. If they do not have any vision setup or control, Caps needs to move through mid first, get that control with his team, and then he can go back into bot. So he resets, probably for a little bit of an item spike. Yep, double needlessly. And what's beautiful is that he now catches top lane wave right here with the fact that he has teleport up. So if the enemies start Drake, he can contest the dragon. But the enemies now try to sneak the Baron. They get a nice kill onto Karma. They recognize that Baron's not being on the menu for the enemy team anymore. And because they get a pick onto Karma, what actually happens is that he first gets some control with the boys, gets the mid push first, right? Get the mid push first. They get themselves the dragon. And it seems like the enemies are contesting the mid lane push. Let's play this out. So if the enemies do not contest this, what do? We get the mid push into top side vision control, because that's where the next neutral objective is going to be. So that's where we value the most amount of vision. But Aurora tries to contest onto the mid lane wave, gets a pretty strong ult actually. But the reality is there's not enough multi-threat. Aurora is not recognizing that she is alone in the engages. Who can follow her up? And that makes it just that the fights are pretty hard for her to play out, because this is a brutal composition for Aurora to play into with this little multi-threat right here. If I'd say, how does red side win the game? Because red side has not been able to progress. I think the way red side wins the game right here is by 5-5 team fight. And poke. I think that's the way I have to play. And what we see is that constantly, because red side's constantly answering to the waves in the side, they cannot really do that. And because Caps understands his timers when he can push and when he can get mid lane control, they never have the opportunity to force that because Caps is always pushing side whenever they're grouping up on mid. And also the other way around. Whenever Caps pushing side, they cannot really do anything on mid because they don't really have the control and they're kind of forced to answer the Caps. So he's doing a really nice job with his movements in the mid game. So, very important. What he does right here. He stays mid and he takes the wave. Varus cannot get the prio himself, so he does it. It's super important he gets this wave because if he just goes bot right now, even though he has TP, and the enemies get prio onto this mid lane wave, he cannot do anything on bot because they can instantly rotate from mid to bot because the collapse area is so short. And that means that right now he takes the mid lane wave first, and therefore he keeps the control around mid. At least that's what he's going to be trying to, because what happens is that the enemies are, of course, stronger. They can brute force the prio, but at least he can keep some form of the control. So, Varus actually reset. We spot that the enemies are on Baron. No problem. This situation is no problem for us. Baron reduces enemy resistances, deals a lot of damage. We always have the Kindred to flip it with the passive. Incredibly favorable contestation position for blue side. So, what should red side do? Let's take a look if they have control of topside vision. They do not. That's where this problem goes wrong. Right? This call goes wrong because the amount of vision in the enemy topside is not there. And the reason why it's not there is Karma was dead. So what happens, right, is Karma dies. The enemies get mid lane control. They try to do Baron because they're very desperate. They don't know what to do. And what's going to happen is that now Karma is going to open up. They got no vision control. And because they got no vision control, they cannot control space. What should they do instead right here? Right, is red side should wait for Karma to set up vision control. Vision control around top side is going to be really, really important. Karma's chilling in base right now. That means that we can't play. If Karma is here and if these guys have vision, what they can do is they can set up a little bit of a trap. So they can start up the Baron, force the enemies to walk in, and then utilize the choke points, right? And the fact that the enemies are walking into you to get the, so to say, increased range on your abilities and actually hit them onto whenever they're coming in. Poking, which is one of the win conditions for red side right here. But what they do instead is they start the Baron prematurely, no control, just complete annihilation, massive blunder. What they should do instead of starting Baron, push out top, force someone to respond. They can also utilize this mid lane push to also send someone bot. In this case, Aurora can easily go bot right here with teleport up, because she has teleport up, that's why she can go bot. Push out this bot lane wave, push out this top lane wave, force the enemies to respond, and then with Karma coming back up to mid, they can then shift towards mid, get up mid lane control, and set up control throughout there. But because they're playing before their turn, they got collapsed one and kind of throw the game here. And it's completely fine for both teams to stall it out, by the way. Both teams are okay with not playing, because the scaling on both ends is really, really high. And especially with there not being much engaged from both sides, I actually think that the poke composition on red side is a little bit more favored if you would be just A-ramming. The problem is there's no A-ramming, there's no control around mid all the time because of the fact that they are not managing their side lane waves and they're not using their tempo properly to get that control, while Caps is, and that means that, and Caps and Zillion, by the way, you gotta give credit to Zillion because his warding has been really, really nice. So, they get a lot of kills on top side, which incredible right here, of course. This is really, really, really powerful situation where they get 2 picks onto the enemies, and we're going to go back towards blue. What they do is they just nicely reset after getting the Baron as well. And the enemies, they get desperate, as you can see. Like, they're not pushing out the side lane waves. They should push the side lane waves, but they're fighting. And this really leads them to lose even more control of the game. And what we see right here is that even if they get these picks, what's going to happen is they're going to be able to deny the Baron, but they cannot really progress anything else with the game because none of their waves are pushed in. Their waves are permanently getting shoved into themselves, and that's why it's so hard for them to play. And what happens is eventually Caps finds a beautiful flank and gets like a nice little double kill, and from this point on. One of the beautiful things that Caps also does is Caps does not TP from base right here. Caps can potentially TP right here to guarantee the flank, guarantee the kills. He does not do it. And the reason why that is because he really values his TP. He cannot waste his TP this game because it's going to lose him pressure onto the map because he's the only one with TP. And Darius does not have TP, so that means that playing weak side is really hard if no one does that. So, beautiful collapse, getting himself a nice little double kill. And what does he do? He can now pressure top a little bit more. The way that he does that as well is, of course, by understanding that he's a little bit, he's in a position right here where he's quite safe. The reason why he's safe is because if you look at the enemy team composition, Brand and Ezreal are alive. Right? They're alive. But the amount of threat they have onto Caps, with Caps having flash up, is not that high. Plus, the rest of the enemy team is dead, so that means that they can now put pressure. And guess what? There's also a reason why he doesn't instantly move mid right now. He's comfortable pushing out this extra wave because he knows that his mid laners will get priority right here and will set up vision control themselves. He knows that they don't need him. And the reason why he pushes up so incredibly deep right here, and this is magnificent, and this is what makes Caps, is like this is just incredible, right? Because what he does is he uses this Kindred hover and baits trades onto this Jace. He intentionally walks forward onto that minion, which is insanely clutch. Like, the fact that you're able to do this and act as if like you're an idiot, and then bait Jace in like this and actually get himself like almost a kill onto him is really, really, really smart. Like, I really like what I saw there. So, we're now in a position where we just got the mid-tier one. Caps is the only one in base right now. We know that Caps is in base right here. He's got his TP. His team is sieging. There's a few options that we got in this particular case. We can TP bot, siege the bot tier 2 with a shift from Kindred into mid and bot lane into bot. But what does Caps do? Caps values his TP. Now that's insane, right? Because I would TP bot here for tempo. But he's thinking ahead because he recognizes that he's going to need this TP for this next dragon because we can't give the enemies soul. That's why he's keeping his TP because he's confident that his team can already siege this without him. So this is really, 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 really smart. Kindred gets out. As you can see, the TPs from red side are just like, they're just ruining them tempo. And the fact that Caps holds onto that TP so incredibly well it's just such a game changer. And that's why Caps has so much more impact here in the side lane comparatively to the other players from red side right here. Aurora tries to brute force, got no multi-threat, doesn't work right here. And what happens right here is genius. This is also just incredibly good from Caps. What he does is he recognizes that his Darius is splitting bot. So if he can bait a fight right here, if he can bait a fight without fully committing and fully dying, his Darius gets a tier 2 for free. That's why he's walking forward. He knows Zillion has R. He knows that the enemies don't have much hard engage. And he actually slows it down in this particular area. And he knows that he just baits the enemies in. And Darius gets the free tier 2. He's baiting them so hard. It's insane. He's playing with them. It's crazy macro here. It's insane. It's wild. It's really, really wild. It's insanely good, dude. And this makes it so hard to play against him. Because once again, look at these side lane waves. They have to respond and respond and respond and respond. Once again, Caps resets. Robodon's death cap. Zonia's right now. Seeker's armor guard. Where is he going to go? Look at the location of the side lane waves. Both side lane waves are getting pushed in. So he can just go through mid, set up mid-side vision control into bot side where the dragon's going to be. Then he can open up towards top to get the top lane push with him having TP up. So in this case, he doesn't go through mid. Why? Because his team already is able to get control without him. That's the question you got to ask yourself. Can my team already get control without me? Yes, for free to go towards the side. Answer that is no. In that situation, you need to open up mid to help them get that control with you. So in this case, he actually values his time in a different way, that he actually takes the jungle camps into the top lane push right here. And what he does right now is, this is dangerous. So I'm not a big fan of what he's doing right here, but I can see his intention. But what we see right now is that the dragon is going to be spawning in... let's take a look. The dragons will be spawning on... Yeah, in about 39 minutes. That's when the dragon spawns. And he's on the weak side right now. So the only way, the only thing that the enemies can do to murder this plan from blue side is collapse onto Caps right now on the side. I think the way that they need to play it is, I think Jace needs to hover top side and they need to 2v1 the Caps, overload the side lane, kill him, and a timer that they can then turn into the dragon with the Jace TP afterwards. Brand can also do it, but Brand doesn't have threat. He doesn't have any mobility. So if Brand commits on the top side, they lose all bot side control. So I think Jace is forced to play top side right here with the Aurora, and if Jace, for example, hides in this bush right now, they win the game probably because they get the soul. So what we recognize that Caps goes very greedy and tries to contest the Aurora. So this is a bit of an ego play right here. And what we see is that Jace actually does overload. Oh, I didn't know that he did that. Oh. But the lucky thing is that Caps get the kill. So if Caps does not get this kill onto the Superacles, onto the Aurora, what happens is that they actually lose Dragon because of the man disadvantage and the dead timer on Caps. So what Caps did here was super greedy and not good because of the fact that he didn't respect the ability to get overloaded. So both, I think, Roxa and Jace actually did a beautiful macro decision. It's the only play they have to save the game, is to overload on the top. But unfortunately, Aurora died. And if Aurora lives here, they get Dragon. So really nice play by Red Side, actually. Very impressive play. And Caps got incredibly lucky here. This is another really big mistake that he made. I think he should play it slower. Much slower. He didn't have any good proper vision setup. So now Darius is actually responding to top lane wave. And this allows Jace to TP in mid. And you see that this becomes a tricky situation. This becomes a very tricky contestation right here from blue side. This is a very, very tricky position right here. Because of the fact that Darius is now forced to respond top without TP. So Jace can TP on mid right here. The lucky thing is that Kindred is using the control that they have to nuke the dragon and prevent, like, the enemies cannot just blindly face check into them, right? They might get Zilean bombed or Varus are, then died. So Kindred uses this tempo to sneak the dragon before the enemies get out. So really lucky for blue side. Incredibly lucky here. And right now, we're going to be in a rinse and repeat situation right here. We're going to ask ourselves the question, what's the next neutral objective? We still got our TP up, okay? Great, Darius is now going towards top. Amazing. What are we going to do? We're going to open up mid into a side lane. Because if we look at the location of the wave, there's not really something else to do. So in this case, you recognize, okay, we already get the mid push. So I'll just instantly go side right here. Once again, right, this is dangerous. Right? No, it's actually not dangerous because he got deep bot side vision. If he does not have this deep bot side vision, he cannot really contest the Jace. So in this case, it's good that he answers right here, but he's still got to be a little bit careful. And it looks like he waits for the Jace to use the spells. And Jace does really nice movement right here. Also flashing the Orianna R. Jace actually plays this really well, but caps the Zonias and denies the Jace play right here. And Kindred's actually hovering, and it means that it's a little bit of a dog chase. And this is now a pretty big mistake by Jace, because Jace dies at a timer before the Baron. You know what's going to happen, right? Cap's going to reset, going to open up through mid into Baron right here. He's going to TP for tempo. In this case, it's warranted the TP. And they can just easily start up the Baron into a nice little brute force, right? Zilean plus Darius actually does have some decent engage, and it seems like they brute force into the enemies, getting themselves the kills, getting themselves the Baron. And from this point, it's just really easy to close out the game. So I want to cover a few more deployments. What he does right here is he opens up mid. Why? Locations of both side lane waves are very deep. Wants to get mid lane control first. He doesn't have that much vision around him. And then what he's going to do is he's going to play two lanes. So in this case, it looks like they're going to be playing mid into bot. What he's doing right is very dangerous. He's walking in really, really, really deep. So if he doesn't play it the way that he's doing, like, I think he's very greedy here, because Kindred is still taking the Grom for some reason. Which is actually fine for her because of the fact that Darius is not pressuring bot. We need to play on Darius tempo right here. And I like what Caps' idea is, right? Caps' idea is, okay, we can potentially collapse onto Jace right here. But the problem is he's got no vision. So if the enemies have vision right here and they're behind this wall in the fog, for example, Brand, he can combo Caps and Caps will die. And that's when it's a lot of trouble. You see probably Brand is there. If we go back, Brand's probably there. So if they have a little bit better vision right here, Brand's actually there. So if they have a little bit better vision right here, they can kill Caps. So Caps is very greedy pathing with his Kindred not being in the area, with him not fully getting hovered by the Zilean, and his Darius not being on the right tempo at the moment. So we should wait one more wave and then do it. Anyway, what we're going to do right now is we're going to play off Darius tempo. It's very important that we play off Darius tempo right here, because of the fact that we're now a little bit exposed. But the good thing is that the enemies don't have a lot of hard engage. So since they have no hard engage, you can do this. If you're playing versus Rel, versus Nocturne, Oriana, versus whatever they got, right? You cannot stand here because they'll brute force on you with Darius being on bot without TP. But since they don't have hard engage, he can stand here, he can look to poke, he can look to annoy the enemies. But the main thing that he's trying to do is just slowly siege, not engage into a big fight. And in the meantime, we wait for Darius to push in the side waves. So we get ourselves a nice turret right here. We're poking out the enemies a little bit, and now we just simply stall for Darius. So what I love that Caps does right here, and this is very genius once again, is he's baiting them again. Caps is completely baiting them into potentially hitting him with skill shots. And the reason why this is so good is because what happens right here is by baiting the enemies, they cannot really move to bot to defend the bot lane wave right now. So because he baits them into skill shots and he baits them into standing right here, what happens is that they're forced to keep this position. And now Caps can utilize this position for his Darius, because he knows Zilean got R, Zilean got everything, right? He's chilling. He cannot fucking die. Look what's happening in bot. Darius is free hitting the turret because Caps baiting him. And this is classic Caps, man. It's so good. And this is like the main difference what I see between Caps and other high, like really high ranked mid laners is his aura that just baits enemies in and actually staying alive. So get himself 2 turrets. Afterwards we get ourselves we're just setting ourselves up for the dragon right here. Blue buff into mid, into dragon, and it looks like the enemies just lose them from this point. And honestly, only 2 major mistakes, right? The disrespect of overloading on top, and the disrespect of the weak side right here, and the enemies having vision. And besides that, it was a really clean game. Main things that stood out to me was the fact that he held his TP so much. His TP usage was, or rather, lack of TP usage was absolutely incredible, leading him to like win this game from like 7k down or something like that. Incredible position. Completely out macroing both other side laners in this game.